Hi everyone, I'm Kimberly Einmo, Janome's national spokesperson, and welcome to month 5 of Janome's UpWords Block of the Month Quilt Along. We have been making the blocks and pieces for this beautiful quilt I designed exclusively for Janome using my UpWords line of fabrics for Benetex. Now, if you haven't already participated, it's not too late to join me. Just go to your local Janome dealer and ask for a kit that contains all the beautiful UpWords fabrics shown here to make the quilt, plus the rulers and a thread kit with 12 beautiful 50-weight cotton Aurifil threads. Everything you're going to need to complete the quilt top. So we have covered a lot so far, and we've talked about making 4 patches, flying geese, these beautiful woven hearts blocks. We've done some simple shapes of machine applique, and we've made these elongated star blocks and the spool blocks. Now, you're going to want to click the link below to go download your handouts for month 5. Or if you're just getting started with this, you can find all of the materials you're going to need there and just download everything so you can get caught up. This month, we're going to go back to doing machine applique, but we're going to focus on word blocks. We're going to be making the beautiful joy block, the love block, the hope block, and my favorite, the glimmer block with a cute little star to dot the I. So we'll talk about some different techniques for machine applique and what you can do on your machines at home. I'm going to be sewing on my Continental M8. Can't wait to show you some fun stitches I've found that you may want to try on your blocks. So get your materials downloaded and let's meet at the cutting table where we'll go over everything we're going to need to make the blocks this month. This month, we're returning to more machine applique, but it's a little different this time because in month 3, while we worked on a flower and some hearts and stars, which are pretty easy, we're going to advance to some harder shapes because they're all letters that form words. So encouraging words, UpWords, but there's some tricks and tips I want to share with you. But first, let's go over everything that we're going to need for this month. Of course, you'll want to print out your handouts, and it will come with the pattern pieces showing all the words that we're going to do. There's love, there's joy, hope, and the word glimmer. Now, for those of you who may not follow me on social media, I am always posting about glimmers. What are glimmers? Glimmers are the opposite of a trigger. Glimmers are the things that you may encounter throughout the day that bring a smile to your face, that offer you encouragement, or just make you happy when something unexpected happens. That's a glimmer. So that was a word I felt was very important to include in this quilt. And hopefully it will encourage you to look for the glimmers in your life too. So you're going to print out all of your pattern pieces, and there is one extra heart and star that you will need to print out for tracing. But let's talk about the shapes that we're going to need. Now, the really good news is you've already cut all the background pieces. We're going to need one that is 8.5 by 16.5 inches, one that's 8.5 by 18.5 inches, one that's 12.5 by 12.5 inches, and one that's 6.5 by 14.5 inches. Again, you've already cut those from your background pieces, so make sure you go and look, and you should have them labeled and they'll be easy to pull out. Now, I've done some samples here that I want you to take a look at, and I've done these with the blanket stitch that we focused on in month 3. I've also done them in the strong contrasting black threads because I want you to see the difference, and then you'll be able to choose which method that you want to applique your words to your background. So we've got all of this blanket stitch done in a black thread, and it's very bold, and I love it. There's absolutely nothing wrong with choosing this, but I think when I get ready to meet you at the sewing machine to show you about how we're going to do some other things as far as machine applique, you'll see that I'll be using the different colored threads that came with your kit. So it gives it a whole different look, and you'll be able to choose which you like better. For instance, we've got this love block here done with the black and the blanket stitch, and here I just did a simple zigzag with some coordinating aqua thread, and it's beautiful too, and I really like the look of both of them. Neither one is right or wrong, it's what you like the best. I just thought I'd give you some options. The other thing here, I've got the glimmer, and this one has not only the black with the blanket stitch, but it's got the coordinating rose color and yellow or gold threads that you see here. So it gives it a softer look. It's just beautiful, either one. And for joy, we have that blanket stitch in black, or we have the aqua threads. And here I did the aqua blanket stitch around the heart. That gives it a fun look. So you have lots of choices, and we'll talk more about that when we get to the sewing machine. Now let's talk about what else you'll need. I recommend a variety of different size scissors for cutting out your shapes once you fuse them to your fabric. The smaller scissors are really, really helpful when you cut the word glimmer, because those are very small letters and you'll need to be very precise. You're going to need your fabrics ready to fuse, and you'll be able to follow along. All that's listed right here in your handout. And you're going to need your tearaway or temporary stabilizer to go underneath your blocks. And I've got a great tip for you about when it comes off the roll and it's real curly. I've got something to show you that's going to make it nice and flat. You are going to need your fusible paper-backed webbing, and you're going to need a light box or a sunny window. Now, there's one other thing we want to talk about when you get your pattern pieces. Because this is fusible machine applique, you're going to want to turn these upside down. It's very, very important that when you're tracing your shapes, you're going to trace the letters backwards, and you're going to trace it to the paper side of your fusible web. And I'm going to go ahead here and trace one just to give you the idea. I'm going to do the E because that's very noticeable backwards. And when you do that, you'll see, hey, Cheeto! Cheeto has joined me here to help give us motivation for all of the things we have to do in this month to get our blocks done for our UpWords quilt. Thanks, Cheeto. You're very helpful. He is my quality control manager. So let's get that traced. And you can take your time. You can get the kiddos involved with this if they're willing to help. And once you get all of that traced, what you'll need to do is then fuse those letters to the back of your fabric. So I've already done that, and I've got my hope all fused, and you can see that the letters are backwards. Now when we go to cut these out, when we put them right sides up on your background fabric, oh, Cheeto's helping with the camera. When you fuse these to your background fabric, they will be right side up and you'll be able to read them properly. Don't forget to cut out the center of the O and the little place for the E or the P. Don't forget to cut those parts out of your shape too. You'll need to do that before you fuse. All right, so now we have gone over everything we're going to need for this month, And I'm going to meet you at the ironing board so I can show you that great tip for how to handle kind of rolling or curling stabilizer. I'm sure you remember how to do fusible machine applique, but I thought I'd do a quick refresher here just in case. Now I've traced the word hope onto my fusible web and I've already fused it to my colored fabric or my print fabric, and I've cut out the shapes. Remember, you do need to cut out the centers of the letters too. Now it's time to fuse them to your background fabric. And here I've just laid them out. Now there's no pattern piece for this. You just need to kind of lay them out in any configuration that you like. It may be that you want to kind of stagger them a little or make them a little wonky. That's totally up to you. You can make it as fun or as normal as you would like. So it's totally up to you how you're going to lay out your shapes. But once you get them laid out the way you want them fused to your background, you're going to use a hot, dry iron. Remember, no steam here. Again, refer to the manufacturer's instructions for their guidance on how to do this, depending on the brand of fusible web that you're using. But I think you'll need a hot, dry iron. So now we're ready to go ahead and fuse these in place to the background fabric. Just like this. And you're just going to hold them in place, hold the iron in place for a few seconds over each section. And go ahead and hold this down. There we go. It's looking good. There we go. One more section here. Here we go. And once that's done for all of your blocks, you are ready to take this to the machine and start doing your applique stitches. But I did promise you a great tip for what to do about the tearaway stabilizer. Now, you're going to want to turn the heat on your iron down just a bit. You don't want it at the highest setting, probably mid-range or somewhere between the mid to highest setting. And all the tearaway or temporary stabilizer I've ever used comes on a roll. And when it comes off the roll, it's pretty curly. It seems to want to roll back. And that can kind of make it difficult for when you're trying to maneuver your piece under your presser foot and your needle. But what I want to suggest is, if you're very, very careful, you can give it a quick press with a medium hot iron, and you can make it lie flat. So you're not going to do it very long, and what we're trying to do is just relax the stabilizer. And I'm keeping the iron moving. And here I'm actually ironing and not pressing. We want to keep this moving across the surface, and you can see that it is starting to relax and lay flat. Just never keep that iron on that paper very long because it could be a fire hazard. But if you're very, very careful, there we go. Make sure you turn your iron off when you're done. Now we've got a nice flat piece of paper stabilizer that we can put behind our word block, and now we really are ready to do machine applique. Cheeto's here with me. He wants to make sure that you're going to have fun doing machine applique, and we're going to have a great time. I wanted to remind you again of what the block looks like with the black blanket stitch, and it's nice and bold, and that's what you would do with your black thread if you choose. And I did that for one set of my blocks, but I think for this next set I am going to continue with using these beautiful colors, these fun contrasting and coordinating colors, to highlight my appliqué words. So I just wanted to bring that in and show you, and we're going to be doing the hope block. So I have my machine threaded with orange right now. I'm going to do the bright orange thread to actually applique my word here. So I'll pull these beautiful thread colors out of the way. They're like candy, aren't they? They're quilter's candy. I just love them. And these are all the colors that you got in your kit. Now, this is the chance for you to have some fun with your machine's capabilities. Now, I'm on the Janome Continental M7, and I love this machine for so many reasons, but it has so many decorative and useful stitches that I want to encourage you to try out some of your machine's decorative and useful stitches. And you're going to want to prepare a little sample sheet, and I've just used white fabric here, but what I did was I fused little pieces of scrap fabric down, and then I literally made a stitch chart. And I thought, I'm going to play with some of these stitches and try different settings and see what they might look like as applique stitches. So up here, you can see I chose stitch number 7, and I used a U, that stands for utility. And I wrote down the weights and the width and the length of the stitches, and you can see what it looks like on the side of the scrap fabric, and also what it looks like without the scrap fabric. So, or the fused fabric. The next one was utility stitch number 22. I really like the look of that serpentine. It sort of gives it a scalloped look without it actually being a scalloped edge. And here I've got a really thick quadruple stitch, blanket stitch here. That A stands for applique. I love this one. It kind of looks like, I don't know, an EKG for a heart monitor, but that would also make a beautiful applique stitch. This one is what I ended up doing, and it's just a simple utility zigzag. And that's stitch number 9, and I wrote down 2 different widths and lengths. You can use a wider, chunkier stitch, but I sort of like the really small stitch. It's more demure, I guess, and it also works really well around the glimmer block. This is the same stitch I used around the glimmer word. You can see these are pretty small letters, and we've got a lot of tight turns to make, so that small zigzag was perfect for the glimmer block. And then we've got some others here that are just fun to share. I really want to use this one at some point, this applique stitch number 20. Look how bold and dynamic that stitch is. But there's also some fun satin stitches I think you should try. And if you don't have the M8, go to your Janome dealer and sit and just play with these stitches. The S stands for satin. I used stitch number 9, and these are the widths and the lengths I used. Now, what does that circle F mean? That means I switched to the F foot, not the F2 foot, which I've been using and I will use for the zigzag, but the F foot has a closed front. And what it does is it has that tiny red arrow on the foot itself. That is what I align with the raw edge of the applique shape. So when I'm stitching, that raw edge aligns with that arrow. And I think Mr. Kim did a great job getting that. So I wrote down the F because I would use the F foot for this stitch. And here's some more different stitches, and this one I found under the quilt menu, and look how fun that would be, just doing these really cool stars on the edge of your applique. Now I don't know how easy that would be to use around letters, maybe the bigger letters, but on the word glimmer it's probably a bit too small for that. But let me show you where you'd find all these. The utility stitches are right here. It's really the first thing that you come to when you turn on your machine, and there's lots of options for those utility stitches. Then for all the other stitches, you would go to that sideways heart, which is your decorative stitch menu. And it takes you to a sub-menu, and you'll see applique, you'll see quilt, heirloom, satin. We use some of those. And I'm going to use my stylus here. I actually found those stitches inside of here. So like that really bold dynamic one is stitch 20. Look at that, it's right here. Look how bold and dynamic that is. And I just kind of played with the width and the length to get it where it would be suitable for our machine applique. And I chose a 3.5 by 5.0 length. And that's what you saw stitched out on my stitch chart. And I keep these stitch charts handy so that I can go back to them and refer to them often, and it gives me an idea of different things that I can do to use the capabilities of my M7. So take some time with your machine or go down to your Janome dealer and ask to try out the M8 or some of their other models. The 9480 is fabulous. It's got many of these exact same stitches, and you can actually try them and see how fun it will be to use these beautiful stitches for doing fusible machine applique techniques. Hey bud, are you going to oversee my efforts here? Good job. I love having Cheeto with me in the studio. He's great company and he encourages me to do my best always. So now it's time to do some machine applique. So for this, I did just choose that utility stitch. It's a zigzag number 9, and I chose the smaller width and length just to be more demure, but I am using that strong pop of orange thread color, which is going to be really pretty on this, I think. So when you're ready, get your block ready to go. Make sure to put your tearaway stabilizer under it, and let's get our block appliqued. One last thing I forgot to remind you, either engage your automatic presser foot lifter icon so that the presser foot will raise, because you're really going to need that feature as you're going around these shapes, or use your knee lift option so that you can control the presser foot and lift it when you need to turn. There's a lot of twists and turns with these letters, and one of these is going to make it super easy. So we've done it. We've made all of our beautiful word blocks for month 5, and I hope you've had fun and you've honed your machine applique skills just a bit, because it is a little tricky doing these letters, but it sure does make a bold impact in the quilt. And hopefully you'll find these words as uplifting as I do. So the other thing I want to encourage again is for you to make a stitch chart and try some of those different stitches. Whatever stitches your machine has, test them out. Go ahead, take time, stitch out some samples, write down what the settings are, because then when you go back to use them, you won't have to duplicate this effort. So it really does make it fun, and it's very useful for even future projects. So thank you so much for joining me for making these blocks this month, and I will see you next month when we'll finish everything for the quilt. We'll make some half square triangle pieced borders. We'll put the whole center together and we'll get the quilt top finished. Bye-bye.